This is what it looks like when a team completely flips the script, as the Toronto Maple Leafs have made another incredible move that further shows the new team building philosophy, acquiring Dakota Joshua for scraps from the Vancouver Canucks. Adding that to the acquisition of Matias, Maccelli, the Toronto Maple Leafs have flipped the script on what the team was last year into what they are doing moving forward. We have to break down the Dakota Joshua trade, how the lineup has changed from last year to this year, and the massive implications this has on the Toronto Maple Leafs as a franchise, and also how this has a very interesting impact on the Vancouver Canucks going forward as well. All of that coming up on this episode of Hat Trick HQ. But hey, quick reminder, guys, to hit that free subscribe button. We're pushing 20,000 and 85% of you have not hit that button. We appreciate you tuning into every single video. If you're enjoying, hit the free button down below. Mark, let's just dive into Dakota Joshua himself, because look, this trade was kind of out of nowhere. I did not expect to see this, as the Toronto Maple Leafs acquire him for just a 4th round draft pick going towards the Vancouver Canucks. And before we dive into the philosophy here now for the Toronto Maple Leafs, like we teased at the start, I want to just talk about Dakota Joshua. And from the Vancouver side, I promise we'll get to the Leafs part, Leafs fans, in just a minute, but to me, this is just one of these cases where he had a bit of a down year. You know, the contract was a bit of a gamble, I guess you could say, at like just over $3 million. But Mark, like, I was a bit caught off guard by this, but I guess Vancouver does open some cap, and there have been some very interesting rumors surrounding them since this trade's gone down.
I think the biggest thing is, listen, a 4th round value for a guy that had a down season. He came in with a terrible injury to start the year, recovering, going through treatment, getting back into the lineup. But he is a player that can put up 18 goals. He has over 200 hits a year. But this is a total cap dump on the Vancouver side. They're still desperately looking for a second line center. They're looking to kind of change the philosophy, like we see the Leafs with their lineup as well. So management moved out a player that is a fan favorite, but it is a clear up that $3.25 million. But I will say with Dakota Joshua, if he can get back into form, this looks like an absolute steal from the Leafs side. And if the Canucks go out to make a bigger move with this cap space, it does work out for them as well.
I'm gonna be honest, like with the cap going up, I don't see how this is like a bad contract for any team. Like if you're Vancouver, maybe like this is one of those moves that I think is gonna look really good if you can make that 3.25 million work on a player that fits your team perfectly. The problem is things seldom work out that way. I mean, we all saw the Islanders trade, right? People saying, look, if you're getting 16 and 17 in the draft and you can move up to get Higgins, that's going to be a great trade. Didn't happen. I think people's view of the trade has shifted a bit. So from Vancouver's side, hopefully they can do something with it. But like you said, Mark, I mean, if you focus on the Leafs side of this, Dakota Joshua, especially with the cap going up, 3 years at just over 3 million is negligible. It's really going to look like right now it's kind of like 3rd, 4th line-ish money. It's going to be straight up 4th line money in like a year or two. And by the end of this contract, it's going to be like almost nothing, right? You could almost bury half of it in the AHL by then, right? If you really need to. But the thing is, he's 6'3", 205, and while he's not the maybe most defensive player out there, like you said earlier, the guy lays the body. He's had some good playoff performances. 8 points in 13 games just last year for the Vancouver Canucks, coming off that 18-goal season. It's a down year, Mark, but the Leafs have, had some mixed success with bringing in underestimated guys from other teams, maybe guys who they can bring up and play better for them. But to me, this just signifies, again, going from that, like, super skilled team, especially with these recent acquisitions of a guy like even Maccelli and Joshua for just kind of scraps draft picks, guys that'll almost certainly never play in the NHL. It just shows me that, like, they're building that depth and they're building it in the right way, right? They're getting guys that are hard to play against, that, no team's going to want to go up against Dakota Joshua and Matias Maccelli when you've already faced the Leafs top 6.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing with Dakota Joshua. If he can score you the 20 goals, once again, very good. But every other aspect he brings, he's the leadership type. Everyone in the Canucks locker room loved this guy. We've seen Rick Tocchet, former coach of Vancouver, rave about Dakota Joshua as well, to the point where we've seen management extend him over this as well. And a lot of people are saying the reason why he left was because Tocchet left and management was fine letting him go. But the thing he brings to the team is physicality, which the Leafs desperately need more of in a deep, long series. And he also brings goal scoring in the playoffs. When we see him tie and score a game-winning goal versus Nashville for the Canucks last year in the playoffs, I do like this, and I think it really shows Brad Treliving is looking at Berube, Chief, and saying, hey, we're going to make this team harder to play against. This is going to be a team that's going to wear you down. And I think adding acquisitions like this is the perfect recipe for that.
Yeah, and this is what I'm saying, like flipping the script, right? Because look, the Leafs have made some of these kind of acquisitions before, but I mean, like, yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of the ones that they've got in, yeah, some of them have been more physical guys. Like, the acquisition of Scott Laughton at the deadline, I kind of liked for them, but like other guys, you bring in Tyler Bertuzzi a little bit, you bring in Max Domi, he was a bit of a pest, but like he didn't really show up, and he didn't show the skill that he needed. But now we're just getting guys that are like, they're just going to fill a very specific role for the team. And again, if we look at last year's roster heading into the playoffs, if we look at their lines, right? Knies, Matthews, Marner, sure. Holmberg, Tavares, Nylander, McMahon, Domi, Robertson, Lorenz, Lawton, Yarncrook. And there's a couple of guys there where you're like, yeah, I mean, they had good seasons because they were playing with good players on the Leafs, but a lot of these guys aren't, maybe, not all of them are like definite, like, yeah, this guy is exactly the kind of guy I want at this position. But if you shift it now to this season with their forwards, like with this new acquisition, like, yeah, I know Marner's gone. We all know that. I think Leafs fans are happy about that. Yeah, maybe you're projecting McMahon to play great on the second line again, but having Nick Waugh go down the middle, who is a nice two-way forward, Dakota Joshua, who can lay the body, Scott Laughton still there on that fourth line, even adding some grit and Michael Pezzetta, you got Matias, Maccelli, like, yeah, you're still trying to get some guys to fill maybe top six style scoring roles that aren't as proven in guys like McMahon and Maccelli, but with $3 million still left in cap space, and now the lineup feeling nice and deep with all four lines, plus even your 13th forward being annoying to play against, I feel like, to me, that is the kind of team that the Leafs have sort of been trying to build with the cap, like, issues that they had, but now I think they can do it with some of that money freed up.
And I think the thing is, with that extra money, you can go out and make another trade. You can retain salary on a player and get one back. David Kemp's not even in this lineup. There's so many ways for this Leafs team to open up more cap space. Nick Robertson is still not there. They can go out and make an impact. I mean, adding a playmaker to this roster that had 57 points. Nick Bukestad, fun fact, had a career year playing next to Maccelli as well. I am very excited with this Leafs team, what they're going to continue building with this team. Looking at the lineup, you have the playoff success from a couple of guys. Waugh was outstanding in the runs with Vegas. Scott Laughton, a great penalty killer that can still score you goals in front of the net. And every single line feels like you have a heavy body. Bobby McMahon can still throw hits. Dakota Josh was a new force on that third line. Auston Matthews is still a big boy with Matthew Knies looking like a prototypical power forward. I think this Leafs team, like we've said this entire episode, is shifting in a new direction. And Josh, I don't think Brad Treliving's done, because their aspirations is to win a cup. We know the jokes. 1967 wasn't even on TV, black and white. You listen to it on the radio, whatever it is. I think Treliving is making a statement around the league that this team has the talent. You still have Tavares, Nylander, Matthews, Knies, but I think they're getting players that are going to be different makers come playoff time.
Yeah, and I think that's what their goal is. And again, like I said, I think there's still some things where I'm like, I do want to see how John Tavares looks this season. He was amazing last year, but he is getting older, and sometimes the decline can come fast, right? Matias Maccelli had a great season last year or 2 years ago, but this past year was really not that good. Can he fill that top six role? I tend to think yes. I think the skill is there, but this was a pretty down year for him. Bobby McMahon, can he still level up the same way he was last year? There's questions like still with this Leafs team. But like you said, if they want to make another move, there's ways to move off of cap, right? You have Domi's contract, you have Camp, and you still have $3 million in cap space, not to mention anything you can do on defense. But like, I think, like you said, they're moving in a different direction. They flipped the script, and right now they're trying to finally bring in the kinds of players that fans have been saying that they need. Fans, analysts, everyone alike have been saying they need for a while. They need that bite. At the end of the day, it does come down to the top-down leadership. Like, is Matthews going to step up, be more physical in the playoffs with these guys around him? Is he going to maybe step up his game? Yeah, he could. William Nylander's always been good. Matthew Knies looks like he could be a force. There's still questions, but it's a very interesting team. It's a team that looks very different from years past, and it's intriguing for sure. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on this down below. Do you see this as a change of the guard for the Leafs? Do you believe in them at all? I still have my reservations, that's for sure, but there's no doubt that this team is making some moves that fans like, analysts like, and is changing the pace. But listen, that'll do it for this episode of Hat Trick HQ. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for tuning into all of our videos on your favorite team. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Mark Pye. We'll catch you in the next one.